Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Texas, and today I'm going to show you how to create an easy card using the Wonderful World stamp set from Stampin' Up's Celebration. Celebration has been going on through July, and it will continue through August. Just so that you're aware, the items in Celebration are available while supplies last or until the end of August. And the fun part is they're free with a qualifying purchase. So you can head on over to my website to learn more about that, or you can send me a message and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions if you're not familiar with Celebration or Stampin' Up. Alright, let me go ahead and flip the camera around. You want to start with a piece of basic white cardstock that is at least 2 by 3 inches. This one's a little longer because it's just a scrap of paper that I had lying around. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a small little Post-it note and I'm just going to tear it in half. And then I'm going to place part of it right here and part of it right here. I'm just do it the other way. So what I'm actually doing is covering up the top of the flower. I was about to go backwards, but I think it's important to always start with the lighter color and then move to the darker color. I guess it's not necessary, but in my mind it's just a good habit to be in depending on your project. Okay, and then I'm just going to eyeball it. This rose is a fabulous stamp to use this technique with. I'm not sure I would do this with the other flowers in this. They're too mixed up with the stems, the flower part and the stems and the leaves. They kind of intertwine a little bit on the other ones. But this one is perfect. So I just have a paper towel here. I'm going to rub across the edges just a little bit because I got a little bit of ink here around the edge and I don't want that to end up on my cardstock. Oh, there we go. That's a beautiful rose. Okay, so now I have my blending brush. I'm just going to get most of that ink off of there. And then I'm going to add a little bit of this pink just all around my flower. There we go. Just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to cover up the flower portion again. And this time I'm going to use my water painter, and I have a little bit of ink squeezed here into the lid of my Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to take my smaller tipped water painter and squeeze some ink into, or not ink, squeeze some water into the tip of that. There it goes. I want a pretty good amount of ink on here and water. And then I'm just going to splatter this over my stem part of my flower. Need it a little wetter. There we go. Except I did it in the wrong spot. See why I covered up my flower? I'm not real... Some days I aim it perfectly and get just the right splatters first thing out of the bat. And then other days I'm just a little awkward. Most days I'm a little awkward. Okay, we're going to call that good. So I'm just brushing off that extra ink over here on another paper towel. So if you squeeze and brush it, your water coming out of the tip will end up coming out clear, and it'll be ready to put up and use it another time. Okay. And if you want to, you can splatter the green everywhere. I just like it for some reason just around the bottom part of this one. Alright, so here is a fun way to use your rectangle stitched dies. Okay, so sometimes our dies are not exactly the size that we need. So I'm going to take this and place it right here. I'm going to use a little bit of washi tape to hold it in place so it doesn't move around. And I don't know if y'all can hear my dog in the background or not. He has a treat that he is trying to hide in something that my daughter has under her or beside her desk. I'm not sure what exactly it is. It's probably a blanket or something. I can't see him, I can just hear him, so I'm thinking y'all might be able to hear him too. We find his little treats. He's got those little chew bones, and we find them hidden all over our house. In our shoes, in our purses, whatever he can climb up and get to, because he's tiny. But he hides them everywhere. Okay, so when I put this through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, I'm not going to run it all the way through. I'm just going to run it maybe halfway through, and then I'm going to pull it back out. And pull that off very carefully because I want to reuse that washi tape. So I'm going to turn it upside down, and then I'll adjust this to where I want it. I think that looks good. I'm just eyeballing it here. But I'm also going by feel. So with this, with the stitched one, let's see, you can see the stitches. So I can feel whenever all these little bumps on the back are lined up inside the holes that I've already cut. So I'm going to turn it around again. And this time I'm going to go partway through the other direction. And now I have a piece that's cut out. It's the same width as my original die, but look at that. There, now you can see it. It's so much shorter. So I'm going to do that again in a little bit with the sentiment. In fact, let's go ahead and stamp that sentiment now and get on that. Okay, so I have another scrap of just basic white cardstock. I'm going to use the Melon Mambo again. And then I'm going to grab another die from the rectangle stitched framelits, and I'm going to go with this smaller one here. So I'm going to place it right here. Just want to line it up as evenly as possible. I'm going to see if I can get away with using that same piece of washi tape. Oh yeah, this is going to work. Okay, so I just want it as straight as I can get it. Just halfway through. And it doesn't have to be exactly halfway. It's just a guesstimate, approximately half. And then I'm going to turn it, and again, I'm kind of going by feel here. I can feel when it lines up, and those other cuts that I've already made. I want it a little bit closer. Not that close. I think that looks good. It should be straight because it's lined up. Oh yeah, it's lined up good. Okay. that washi tape back over. Remember, on the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, like I'm using now, it's good to stagger your plates on the end, so it kind of looks like a hot mess right now, but that's on purpose because it'll start easier as you start running it through your embossing machine or die cutting machine. It's not necessary on the standard size, but on the smaller one, it sure is handy. Okay, so once again, we got a much smaller piece for our sentiment here. So that is just a quick and easy little way to adjust the size of your dies. Okay, so one more thing that I want to do is I have a piece of Melon Mambo here that is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I'm going to use my painted texture embossing folder, and I'm going to emboss this real quick. So I'm going to need to do that with my standard size embossing, my standard size Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I'm going to go do that over on my counter, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back with that painted textures embossing folder. This is one of my top 3 embossing folders that I use all of the time. My other 2 top 3 are Time Worn Type and the Brick. I just went blank on what it's actually, the name is actually, but the Brick one. So we have this piece. Again, that was 4 by 5 1/4. We have this one and this one that I did not measure perfectly. I have a Melon Mambo card base. This is 5 1/2 inches by 8 1/2 inches and scored at 4 1/4 inches. I have a little piece here of the Designer Series paper that comes with your Wonderful World stamp set, and it measures 2 1/2 inches by 3 1/4 inches. And then I have another piece of cardstock here. This is Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to put it right behind right behind the flower that we die cut out. But because the die cut is not, this isn't exact, I just got lucky. I had a backup piece in case that one wouldn't work. So I'm going to tell you my measurements, but that doesn't mean that your measurements will be exactly the same. So for me, I measured this one out at, oh my goodness, so almost 2 inches. It's at 1 15/16 of an inch by 2 3/4 of an inch. Ooh, that was a lot easier. So to measure it this way, what I did was I went to 2 inches and then I came back 1 mark, and then that's where I cut it. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my liquid glue. So sometimes things don't turn out exactly like I like them, and I just flip my cardstock over and use it on the other side. And then once you put your card together, nobody will ever know, and you're not wasting cardstock that way. I do that a lot. Okay, and then this one, I'm going to wait just a second because I want to grab my baker's twine, and I'm just using white. And what I'm going to do is on the back of this, look at these Stampin' dimensional backings. I have them everywhere. Alright, so what I'm going to do is flip that upside down. And then I have my mini glue dot. And I want 2 of these, so I'm just going to rip them off there. I'm going to place one down here at this end. And then the other one up at the top. I'm going to try to get it pretty evenly spaced out with that other one. And then I'm going to just wrap this twine around 3 times. So there's once, And I'm using this glue dot on the back to stick it on so that I don't lose it. There we go. And then I'm going to tie a little bow up here at the top. Oh, first I need to straighten that out. That's kind of wild, huh? Very crooked. Okay, that looks much better. I slipped the baker's twine under the string. There we go. Then I'm just going to trim the ends off. And I always recommend using paper snips when you're cutting paper, especially fussy cutting. But then have a separate pair of scissors for all your ribbon and fabric cutting so that they stay sharp. Okay, so now liquid glue again. Isn't that pretty? This designer series paper is gorgeous. I love all these colors used in it. Alright, so I'm going to place that under this bow and up towards the top. Then I'm going to glue the sentiment right underneath that. There we go. And then I'm going to use my dimensionals to put the rest of the layers on. I'm going to start by putting this one on. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit right here. There we go. So 9.5 times out of 10, when I am wrapping any kind of twine or ribbon around the front of my card, I always like to do a little panel like this and then use Stampin' Dimensionals to attach it rather than wrapping it around the actual card front. I think having an extra layer just makes it look a little bit nicer, but I also really like that this makes the inside of my card flat. I don't like it whenever I have a lot of lumps and bumps inside my projects, if I can help it. Okay, I also always like to use all of my Stampin' Dimensional material, so that means I cut up the edges whenever I come to the end of a sheet of Stampin' Dimensionals, and then I can use the edges too. And sometimes I use the edges just because I can cut them up and make them smaller real easy. You can also do that with a regular Stampin' Dimensional, but these little thin parts especially are great for things like bodies of butterflies or flower stems. Oops. I was trying to straighten that up and I just moved the whole thing. Alright, so this is going to go right here on this yellow piece, and I'm just basically centering it up. And then I'm going to use the polished dots to just add a little bit of embellishment to the front of this card. So of course I've got to grab my Take Your Pick tool. I'm going to put a small dot up here, right on the edge of the flower. And then I'm going to grab one here. And I'm actually going to move that. Put it right about there. And then there's the front of our card. So one last thing that I'm going to do is for the inside of the card, I have a piece of 4" by 5 1/4" basic white cardstock. Yeah, making sure that was the right piece. I'm going to use the Post-it note that I used earlier, and I'm just placing it, again, I haven't even cleaned off my stamp yet, I'm just placing it right over the flower. I'm going to use that Pear Pizzazz ink, and I'm just inking it up the same way I did for the front of the card. Throw that away. And then make sure you just ink the flower and not the stem. Of course, you could go ahead and do another Post-it note, but I'm afraid that that would take the green off of the stem. I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp this at an angle, the bottom of this card. Then I'm going to take that pink blending brush I used earlier and just blend out some of the pink around it again. And then place this inside the card. There we go. I hope you like this card using the Wonderful World stamp set and the Designer Series paper that comes with that. Like I say, this is an easy card. It's fun to make, and something about this rose makes me think of Beauty and the Beast. I don't know about you, but every time I make it, I think of that movie. Thank you so much for watching my video today. I hope you like this card and this stamp set and Designer Series paper from Celebration. Let me know if you have any questions about this card, Celebration, Stampin' Up, just paper crafting. I would love to help. And if you need to order any of these products that I used today, you can always go to my website and order from my online store. Thank you so much. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, but you would like to see more, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. I appreciate you for watching. Y'all have a great day. Happy stamping.